Hello, hello. How are you? I hope that you're going well. So, today I'm going to be talking about nurturing foods that nurture your nervous system. So, we're still on the topic of nutrition, but there are many parts of nutrition or our food and what we eat on a daily basis that is affecting and impacting and either activating or suppressing our nervous system. So I do have some notes here that I'm going to be reading for you. It's not just going to be me waffling on because I have to stay on point because I do waffle otherwise. So if you don't mind that, I will be doing some reading. But what I first want to say is, as we are helping our nervous system come back to homeostasis, which is that balanced state, or trying to get it to that state, get it to calm down, not be so much in that fight or flight, not be so much so alert, so on and alert and revved up all the time. Then if we're not in that state, our body can actually process things a lot more and can actually really start to work with the foods that we're eating in a more nourishing way, because there's not this battle, of like nervous system trying to do its thing, immune system trying to do its thing, digestive system trying to, like, it's not this mass battle of back and forward, up and down, like whose turn is it to have a go? So I'm just going to turn my phone off. So because of that, we want to make sure that when we're nurturing the nervous system, that we're also, looking at the good foods and stuff. And you would have seen some pantry swaps that I mentioned in the other video. Um, but some of the things are creating harmony in the body over that havoc that we have happening, right? And so let's look at types of foods that are not only good for you because they're healthy, like fruits and veg, like beautiful meats, like, legumes and lentils and all the beautiful things that we know are good for us. Let's not just look at that, but let's look at foods that actually support or somehow help the nervous system in certain ways. And what I mean by this is it could be helping your nervous system to not be under so much strain because an adaptogenic herb or something. So what that means is like a herb that helps put the nervous system into a more calming state. So that's adaptogenic herbs. They can do that. That's things like ashwagandha and turmeric and all those things. If you just look at healing herbs, you would be able to find those. And then also looking at foods that support your quality of sleep. They can support your mood. They can support how much energy you have. And these, for some people, these may be just like, I already know that stuff, and that's fine. But I still need to go over them basically because not everyone knows this stuff, and also because it's just good reminders. Like sometimes we just need to be reminded of how foods can potentially be harming us or giving us a harmony, like one or the other, back and forward. So let me just go over a few of those. I'll just read them out here for you. And also when we're looking at food, you would have noticed in the other video, I talk a lot about like organic and spray-free foods, how they are very important for us, but also, and that's also because the nervous system doesn't have to go under so much strain to try and deal with the processing digestive effects of those foods when they are of their purest source. And another thing I'll mention here before I give you the foods list is if you think about, part of this program is learning about frequency and learning about how our vibration affects our daily life every single day. It's like, that's how people say, she's a really good vibe, or I want to be more high vibe, or, that's your vibrational frequency state of being. And this state that we talk about, the state itself is affected and impacted by the foods that we eat. So if we're eating a lot of dense foods or packet foods or foods that are really like not so nourishing, they're quite processed, they're quite damaging to the body, or they're, just think of fast foods, takeaways, those sorts of things. Even, lots of packet foods, if you're not having enough fresh veggies and fruits, but you're having a lot of frozen meals or packet foods out of the cupboard, or just quick grab stuff, then that is not as beneficial to the nervous system, obviously. And it is going to play more havoc, and it is lowering or suppressing your frequency state. Now, we call this your baseline resonance of the body. So we all have that baseline resonance. And I would have mentioned this in another video. So I'm not going to talk too much into that, but that baseline of the body, that's your most dominant frequency. That changes like every 4 hours. If you want to raise your frequency or get yourself up to that higher vibe that people talk about, that's okay, but then your body's always going to come back to that baseline resonance, or that most dominant frequency. So if that most dominant frequency is quite a low vibration, the frequency of it is quite low, you're going to know that, because you're going to be sluggish, you're going to be tired, you're going to be, the nervous system's going to feel out of whack. You're not going to feel balanced. You're not going to feel centered as to who you are, in alignment with what you're meant to be doing. There's so many factors that can play into feeling off, or just feeling burnt out, really flat. And a lot of that comes down to, your baseline resonance, whether that baseline is of a higher resonance or a suppressed, damaged, lower resonance because of things that we're doing in life. And one of those is the food. All right, so let me go into a few of them. Things like dark chocolates and dark leafy greens. So anything that we think of as dark or really vibrant colors is always something that is great for our bodies and our nervous system. And so dark chocolate, if it's over 70% cocoa, and more so if it's over 80% cocoa, it's so rich in things that are beneficial to the nervous system, but we don't want to overdo it. You don't want to just eat a block of dark chocolate, like a big block of dark chocolate. Things like magnesium and certain pathways that the chocolate activates, like it activates a dopamine in our brain, which is one of our feel-good hormones. It's got a lot of magnesium in it, a lot of vitamins and minerals in it, which actually help to benefit the nervous system. So, like I say, it's not something you want to eat a lot of all the time, but if you were to just have a couple of squares of dark chocolate every few days or something, the nervous system loves that, because not only are you getting the magnesium from it, but it's a feel-good feeling. Some of our foods are just our feel-good foods, and they're not always perfect foods. And I'm not saying dark chocolate's not perfect. It is. It's got so many heart health benefits and all sorts of different things. But it's one of those foods that makes us feel good and gives us that little yummy nourishment that alone emotionally can have such a beautiful effect on our nervous system. And then on top of that, you've got the beautiful magnesium, vitamins, minerals in the product that actually help, in the chocolate, that actually help the nervous system in those levels as well, because magnesium is amazing for our nervous system. And it's one of those beautiful vitamins that we need, especially for our hormones. So if you're a female that is, having hormone issues, you may be having heart palpitations, you may be having restless legs or sleep issues or cramping, you may get a bit foggy or blurry vision. A lot of the time it just means that you're deficient in magnesium. Eat chocolate. The dark leafy greens, they're rich in magnesium as well, so that's why I brought them up together, because both of them are beautiful magnesium foods. And then the minerals in the dark leafy greens help calm the body's stress responses. So that promotes that relaxation. So dark leafy greens are things like your kale, spinach. God, my head went blank for a minute. Kale, spinach, anything that you can chard, like anything that you can think of is a dark leafy green. Like the darker the leaf, the better for our body. Spirulina, you know, things like that. Green tea is another really good one. And bananas and blueberries and grapes, omega-3 fatty acids, which come from like avocados, fatty fish, chia seeds, things like that. Now, with the omega-3 fatty acid, this is one I'll talk on a bit more. They're protecting the nerve cells and the brain tissues, which starve off depression. So, a lot of the times, when our nervous system is a bit out of balance, or we're really like not, um, when we're not feeling ourselves, we're quite low in our energy, which is part of that vibrational frequency of the body. We feel a bit like a lot of anxiety or depression, or we just feel like we're flat and moody. That can be because of, you know, the nervous system is under a lot of load and we're not giving it enough proper rest. And so it could also be that your brain is not getting enough nutrients to it through the happy hormones, which are, you know, your serotonin, your dopamine, your endorphins. Those are, you know, we've got our happy hormones, which really, they're like neurotransmitters from the gut to the brain. And they actually work in, you know, synergy up and down the body through the brain and the gut brain. They call it the gut brain axis. And that is something that once we eat, we get those happy hormones um, to regulate themselves or raise themselves. Like dopamine will rise if you've had something yummy, or dopamine rises if it's like, you know, if you go on a shopping trip, or you go do something fun with your friends, or if you see something exciting on your phone or whatever, like your dopamine sparks, and that's what gives you that dopamine hit. And we all feel the really good feel good feelings from that. So, and that's because of, you know, certain brain chemistry pathways which are activating, which create that. But if your brain is depleted, or your cells of your body feel really depleted, and you've got a lot of inflammatory conditions going on, you've got a lot of you might have autoimmune things happening, you could have some sort of a condition or an ailment that can actually, because that's going on in the body, our brain is sort of starved, or it can be starved. And our nerve cells that run through the whole body can also be depleted. And so the omega-3 fatty acids, which really help our brain, you know, from the avocados, the fatty fish, nuts and seeds, like chia seeds and things like that, hemp seeds, they also have like quite a lot of protein in them. So not only are they fats, but they're good protein. These are feeding those neurotransmitters that go from the gut to the brain. So that is a big way of us to feel better. They're feel good foods. And not only is that helping the gut, the nerve cells, the brain cells, those neurotransmitters that are happening for the dopamine and the serotonin and things like that, it's also very nourishing to the nervous system because we feel happy. When we feel happy, our nervous system feels like it can calm down a bit. It's not on alert and looking around all the time and thinking it's got to be turned on all the time or ramped up all the time. And when I talk about ramped up with the nervous system, I'm talking about it's like having an accelerator on in the car, flat to the floor all the time. That's a burnt out, revved up nervous system. And that is happening a lot in society these days. It's very common. But it's also something that we need to reverse and start to calm down, because our bodies, our brains, our soul, our emotions, our mental capacity, everything is affected by that. And because that's happening, we are no longer, a lot of the times, in alignment with self. And this is where we're starting to not be able to make the right choices. We have a lot of brain fog. We're confused all the time. We don't have clarity. We're snapping at our kids or the people in our lives. We're not happy with who we are. We don't like what we see in the mirror. Like we don't talk in a positive way to ourselves. You know, there's so many factors in this that can really cause so many issues over time. So food plays a big part in this. The blueberries are another thing that really help the nerves and the cells as a protection for nerves and cells. So if you can get wild blueberries, that's even better. But if you can get blueberries, use them in a smoothie, have them every day with yogurt or something as a snack, or just snack on them themselves. And they also help with keeping inflammation down within the cells, you know, keeping the inflammation of the body down. Like, yeah, and they're an antioxidant. We all know antioxidants are really good for us. So, bananas, when I'm looking at my notes here, bananas are our amino acids, tryptophan that converts to serotonin for that relaxation. So bananas are good in many ways, and they've had a lot of controversy over time because, you know, they're high in sugar and they're, you know, they're this or that, whatever. But bananas are a great snack to have as long as you're pairing it with something else. So because they are high in sugar, you can, you know, you can ramp up or increase your glucose too much. Whereas if you have them with some Greek yogurt, or if you have them with a handful of nuts, or if you have them with some sort of like a protein shake or in a smoothie or something, the benefits of bananas is amazing on our nervous system, our health. They give us lots of energy if we're exercising, things like that. So let me just go on a bit further. Our grains are another really good one to have for the nervous system because they help us to feel nourished. Like, you know, when you have like a really good curry and it's got the rice or it's got some quinoa or something, you know, like the beautiful grains that we have, they are very calming type carbohydrates. And I don't want you to be scared of carbs. So a lot of people have a fear of carbs because of weight gain and things like that. But if you're having them in the right dosages, you know, the right amount per meal, and if you're also soaking them, the benefits of them can be really amazing for our bodies. So especially our nervous system because they're a calming product. You know, it's really good to have rice before you go to bed because they've got those calming nervous system properties to them. And another thing is if you cook rice or any sort of grain, oats, rice, buckwheat, whatever, if you cook those and then leave them to cool, put them in the fridge, and then eat them the next day. The next day, as you're eating them, they are now classed as a prebiotic because of the starches, because rice, pasta, potatoes, oats, they're starches. There are starchy carbohydrates. When you've cooked that starch and then you've cooled it and then put it in the fridge, it becomes a prebiotic. So it's really good for gut health, which also, our gut is also connected to nervous system, brain health, all the things. So I always say to people, like if you're going to use rice, for an example, or oats, soak them in like for 12 to 24 hours. So, you know, make a big batch of them, soak them for 12 to 24 hours in some water. So the water's like, you know, so they're covered in water with a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. And that breaks down the acetic acid that is, so rice has like that acetic acid as a outer shell, and it breaks that down so that the body, when you're eating the rice, it's then doesn't take as long for the body to digest the rice. So it's not sitting, fermenting, and being all gluggy in the guts for as long, which means it's not going to give you that bloated feeling. You're not going to react to them as badly. Like a lot of people react to grains badly, but it's because of the acetic acid and it's because of the, you know, if you haven't soaked them, your body's trying to break that down. So if you can do that process first and then eat the rice or the oats or whatever, your body's not having to break that down. So it takes less time to digest them, which means it's less time in the gut of fermenting, which is fermenting is not always great when it comes to grains. And that's less load on the system. But they, in other ways, they're so good for us, you know, with all their properties, they're good for us. And they've got the calming effect for us. So, yeah, so I would look at when you're looking at grains, I would look at soaking them first, and then I would look at making a big batch so that you can put them in the fridge later and have them over the next couple of days with your whatever, salads, curries, as a meal itself with something else, you know, like in that way you are getting that prebiotic effect because of the starches as well, which is pretty cool. It's yeah, really beneficial for our bodies. We all know herbs are great. As I said, there's adaptogenic herbs out there that we can all use for our nervous system, which are very beneficial. Some of the other herbs I'll talk about are things that we can have in like herbal teas. So ginger, you could have these in like a smoothie, herbal tea, yeah, or in your cooking. you know, the fresher the better. Obviously, if it's say fresh ginger or fresh turmeric, it's going to be better for you as well. But if it's in those teas and stuff and you have them at night before you go to bed, they're very, very beneficial for our nervous system. So ginger, which uplifts our spirit, and we know that it gives us that heat in the body, which helps to keep us feel nourished and calm. Cinnamon counteracts exhaustion. So you can use cinnamon in many different ways, as we know. So, you know, smoothies, a cup of tea, sprinkle it on top of some yogurt or whatever you want to do. And that's really, really good for, yeah, that counteracts that exhaustion. It sort of makes us feel awake again, you know. Um, Chamomile helps nervous tension. Peppermint helps to calm the nerves and relieve anger. So we know peppermint tea is really good for the belly because it helps calm the belly down. But it's also a nervous system calming product. Basil clarifies the mind, and as we know, basil tastes amazing. Most people love basil, you know, in many different ways. So yeah, put that in your cooking or your spaghetti bog or something like that. Lemon balm tea. So this is a really good one if you're like perimenopause, menopause, or just someone who really wants to be looking after your hormones. Lemon balm tea. So it helps frazzled nerves and supports hormones, known for its ability to support a healthy fight or flight response long term and deal with this, they call it the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. So that's part of those neurons in the brain and hormones in the brain that talk to the adrenal axis, which is our adrenals, you know, and that helps with things like cortisol and those sorts of things as well. So all the herbs we know are amazing, but there's just some quick ideas of ones that you could use in a tea or in your cooking in the next, yeah, as you go along through this process, through this program. Brazil nuts we know are really great for our thyroid, which is always part of, you know, helping our nervous system. That's because of the selenium that's in them. And they can also help with the relaxation. I know that they're quite, like not everyone likes to eat them as they are, but if you chop them up and put them in something, you know, you can make, if you're making your own cereal, you can put them in there chopped up, or you could put them in your smoothie even, if you were doing smoothies, or you can cut them up and have them with yogurt and berries and some cinnamon and some, like if it was say a Greek yogurt, like no flavors to it, Greek yogurt, and you can have it with, yeah, like with the cinnamon, the Brazil nuts, some other nuts if you wanted to, the frozen berries, and some maple syrup. You know, that's a great breakfast to have. Even some shaved apple in there is really good as well. And then things like eggs. So if you can tolerate eggs, not everyone can tolerate eggs. The choline and the B vitamins that eggs have, and not only that, eggs have so many benefits, especially the yolk, which is something they used to tell us not to have. The yolk is so beneficial to us. And these nutrients that it gives us are really great for our brain. Not only that, but we know eggs are really high protein and they've got the fats in there as well, which is what helps the brain. But the protein is what helps our hormones. It helps us to feel fuller for longer. The amount of vitamins and minerals in there is so hard, you know, a lot to count. Like there is a lot. It's what they call a complete protein source or amino source. And they're just something that when you're buying eggs though, I think I mentioned this on one of the other videos, when you're buying eggs, look for ones that are definitely pasture raised, or find a friend that's, you know, doing their own eggs. Because you don't like the caged eggs or ones that say cage free, but they're not really, they've only been out of the cage for an hour or two. Or if they are caged eggs, or if they're ones that don't say pasture raised, you want to avoid them basically because they don't have as many vitamins and minerals. They're not going to give you as much benefit. But eggs are really, really good for nervous system, nerve cells, brain cells, amino acid count in the body. Like, gosh, you could keep going on and on about them. And even things like high quality protein in other ways. So, you know, your meats, your fish, yeah, tempeh, do you know? So tempeh is, so you think about things that are not meat-based protein. So tempeh is really good if you find it in organic ranges because it's GMO otherwise. So tempeh or Greek yogurt, I always say try and get them organic if you can. Otherwise, they can be highly, highly processed, and then that is not good for you. So then you want to avoid them altogether. But if you're looking for options that are not meat-based, you can look for things like Greek yogurt, tempeh, tofu, anything that's soy-based. I always like tempeh and tofu are the soy products, but they are good if they're organic and non-GMO and grown in the right place. But you've got to be really careful if they're not that, because they are detriment to our hormones and they create estrogen dominance in most people. So we don't want that if you're someone who's going through a lot of hormone issues at this point in time. But they can help. So all of our meats and things like that help with your and your, you know, tempeh, Greek yogurt, stuff like that. They help a lot with our mood and our sleep and our cognitive function. Um, and that's because of the protein content in them. And when we have high protein foods, they're quite nourishing to us because our body's not trying to look and find for a depletion that it has, which is a protein depletion. And most of us are protein depleted because we're not eating enough protein for what our brain and our body needs and what our nervous system needs. So we're always heightened in this state of feeling like we want sugar all the time or looking for extra food, or we're always like on this stress response level because we haven't eaten enough protein. If you eat enough protein, you're so much more calm and you're not looking for food. You don't have that hunger noise all the time going, what can I eat? I'm bored. I want something to eat. I feel like I still need nourishing. Like you could eat a meal. If you ate a meal and it was just literally lots of carbs and a little bit of fat, your brain is going to be like, well, I need more food, even though I've just eaten this massive meal, but I need more food because I didn't get enough protein. And the protein is what helps the brain to feel calm and at ease, and alongside the fat. But if you've missed that protein, so that's your three macros, your fats, your protein, your carbs, those macros, if we don't have a balance in those each meal, your body will go looking for more food until it gets enough of that. And so you could be snacking and eating on food all day. If you're not having enough protein, your body's going to want food all day. So, and you're always going to be like feeling like you need sugar, or you're always going to have like an afternoon slump where you want a big sugary snack of some sort, or you're just feeling like you've got that 3 p.m. slump or you're on edge. And a lot of that can come down to, that's your nervous system, can come down to because you haven't had enough protein for the day, and high quality protein. And the other thing that's obviously, this is a no-brainer, but fruits and veggies, they're our living foods, right? So our living foods are anything that has been living. You know, that's come from the ground, the earth, the trees, the shrubs, the herbs, you know, all the things. And so they're as close to nature as possible is what we want. And as I mentioned in other videos, if you can find foods that are fruit and veggies that are spray-free or organic, but not all organic food is great, but spray-free is better. If you can find that, your nervous system's going to love it, because that our body thrives on fruits and veggies the most. And the more vibrant in color, the better for our body, the better for our brain, the better for our nervous system, our nerve cells, heart, lungs, organs of all sorts, systems, you know, organelles of the body. Every part of our body loves the more vibrant color it is, the better it is, or the darker the green it is, the better it is, right? And so not only that, but our frequency, this comes back to, you know, food frequency. When I talk about that, our fruits and veggies, they are of the highest frequency foods on the planet because they've come from the earth. They're the most living things from the earth that we're eating. So if you can just pick it out in your garden and eat it, you've just eaten the most highest frequency that it can be because you've picked it and eaten it straight away. So that's high frequency. So that helps your body to stay in a higher baseline frequency. If you are getting it from the fruit and veg store, try and work out what days they're bringing in food from the trucks. And those days would be the best days to go and buy your foods because they've just come straight off the trucks, which means they're probably the most freshest you'll get them if you're getting them from a store, especially if it's like a fruit and veg guy down the road or whatever, because that way, again, it's the frequency of the food is still nice and strong. Obviously, you know, as we watch our food start to die off in the fridge, you know, you've got lettuces and they start to wilt. You've got celery, it'll start to go all soft and bendy. Our carrots will start to go brown, like, and your cucumbers start to get squishy, stuff like that. You know that the frequency of the food, that vibrational frequency of that food is dying. And so, I mean, it is dying anyway as soon as we pick it, but it's, it has a length time before it starts to really disintegrate or deteriorate. And so the fresher the better, because our nervous system thrives on that, on the most liveliest foods out there is what our nervous system thrives on the most because of the frequency, because it keeps us in a higher vibrational state. That's why we say eat the vibrant colored foods. Another thing is our nervous system loves consistency. And so if you're having routine with food, so making sure you eat breakfast at the same time every day, they always say when you're working with stuff like the nervous system and our hormones like our cortisol, if you can eat within the hour of waking up, to help your cortisol to not feel like it's got to ramp right up again, to help it sort of calm back down. That is one of the best things you can do for hormone health because of that cortisol reason, because our cortisol, when we first wake up, it spikes. And to help that to calm back down and to not be so, cortisol driven state, which is a high nervous system state, to help that, the food is really a big part of that. And so if you're eating the foods that are the vibrant foods, you're eating the foods that are nourishing to the body and the brain and the ones that keep the nervous system calm, then you're helping the body in many different ways. And like it's like a whole dimension of wellness way that you're helping the body when we do that. And so breakfast is really important for those reasons. And I know some people like fasting. Um, and depending on hormone health, like like how your hormones are going. Are you in perimenopause? Are you menopause? Are you someone who's just loves to fast because your body thrives on it and you know that? Then go with it. But a lot of people that are having hormone issues like estrogen dominance, cortisol dominance, nervous system dysregulation, they need to have breakfast because the more you starve your body or prolong the effects of eating, the body goes into, oh, I've got to store everything so I don't know when my next meal is. Or it goes into and that's like a stress state, like it's like, oh my God, type stress. And not only that, it's spiking glucose and cortisol and all sorts of things because it's trying to re-regulate itself without the food helping that process. And I'm not saying you have to eat lots of food, but having a really good breakfast and then maybe later lunch and then fasting at night can work really well for some people. Some people work better if they have a a really good breakfast, don't have lunch, and then have quite an early sort of 4 p.m. dinner. They also benefit from it because a lot of people need food at night or that late afternoon time, 4 or 5 p.m., to help them sleep. Because a lot of the times, if they avoid eating at night, you actually can also put your hormones out of whack. So there's so many factors and it just depends on the person. So this is why, stuff like this, if I'm mentioning it and you want to jot it down and then we can talk about it on the next support call, please do so because we can go into that more individualized for you because of those reasons. All right, so where am I up to? Yeah, well, I was up to saying about the body and the nervous system loving consistency. So this is why if you're going to do fasting or if you're just going to do something that is really good for the nervous system, the types of food you want to eat for the nervous system, make sure you're consistent. So consistently have breakfast, consistently have lunch at around a certain time. Our body loves that consistency because it knows what's coming. And when it knows what's coming, it makes it feel safe. When it makes it feel safe, it doesn't have to spike itself and go, oh my God, when's the next meal? I have no idea, or when am I going to eat next? Oh my God, I don't even know. Like, it goes into this sort of, it's like a stressed out little kid that's like, doesn't know what's coming. So we have to nourish and nurture and surrender to our nervous system to help it feel calm and safe. The more it feels calm and safe and it knows what's coming and it knows the routine, that helps to keep us stabilized in our nervous system to not feel like it's got this unpredictable world that it's living in. So I hope that makes sense because the more predictability it has, the more the nervous system can feel a safety and not be always on alert and revved up. And a good way to also look at this is like the 80-20 rule of your food. So I think I mentioned this in another video, but 80% of your food, if that is really, really good, whole foods, nutrient dense foods, foods that are of the earth or that are reared on the earth, like our beautiful meats and things like that, the most vibrant colors you can think of, making your own meals. That's another one with nourishing foods for our nervous system, is making your own meals, because the more you make your own meals, the nurturing you're putting into that is a vibrational frequency that is like you feel accomplished because you've made your own meals, and you're making food from scratch, and it feels really nourishing to our bodies and to our brains, and it makes us feel proud. And so that's also what we would call nourishing foods, because you've made them from scratch, like sourdoughs, or biscuits and slices, or a beautiful lasagna for the family, or whatever it may be. I could go into all of this more and more, but again, there is a PDF around this which can go into this a lot more, and it goes into things to it, like things that you want to try and avoid for nervous system, as a food for food reasons. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video and you got a lot out of it. Please let me know in your support call if there's anything you want to mention or talk about with what we've spoken about here, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.